It's race 2 of the weekend at the Fuji International Speedway. This is our second destination in a fabulous calendar for Ferrari Challenge Japan 2024, the second season of this new series in the Asian region, and of course a very welcome return to Fuji Speedway, where we were last year as well. We've already gone to Suzuka this season and had a brilliant first weekend. We had a very exciting first race yesterday, which was won by this man, Yuda Uchida. Uchida, the defending Ferrari Challenge Japan champion, the first-time race winner yesterday. He didn't get a win in Suzuka. Young talent Yuga Furatani taking both wins on the Japanese Grand Prix support bill. Uchida finally getting his first win in yesterday's race. However, that win did not come without a little bit of drama. He and Nobuhiro Imada made contact just after halfway through the race, coming out of the last corner. The net result was Imada having an incident, and while Imada is perfectly fine, his car is not, and we expect him to be back out there and racing again in round 3 of the season. But for now, Nobuhiro Imada taking no further part in this weekend, and that means that the challenge to Yuda Uchida is going to be primarily on the shoulders once again of Yugo Iwasawa. Iwasawa is going to have a lot of pressure on his person to try and challenge the master of Ferrari Challenge in the Asian region. Yuda Uchida, a 3-time champion in Ferrari Challenge competition, and of course, as I've alluded to already, our defending champion. He is on pole position for this race as well, and he will be joined by Yugo Iwasawa on the front row of the grid. They will be fighting it out in our top class of driver, that is Trofeo Pirelli. There is Iwasawa in the Ferrari Japan car. Ferrari Japan themselves entering that 488 Challenge Evo as something of an opportunity, an open door for young talent. We already had, of course, Yuga Furatani at Suzuka. Now Yugo Iwasawa racing it this weekend. Our second class to consider is Trofeo Pirelli AM. That is for drivers a little bit off the ultimate pace of the likes of Uchida, but still very, very fast drivers, kind of a gold to the platinums, if you want to borrow some language from the World Endurance Championship. And it's Makoto Fujiwara on the second row of the grid, who of course had that brilliant start and briefly ran second yesterday. Fujiwara had a good qualifying again this morning and is going to line up third overall, first among Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers, and he will be joined on row 2 by Atsushi Iritani. Akita is 5th place, and then in 6th position, a very, very good drive in qualifying from Tsutomu Shimoyama, the first of our Copa Shell drivers. He really is coming into his own this season, it seems. Shimoyama 6th overall, and our 4th and final pole sitter in Copa Shell AM is this man, Yusaku Maezawa, in his second day as a full-fat racing driver. He is on pole position now among the Copa Shell AM drivers. A very, very good, promising qualifying session, of course, following up from yesterday. Yesterday, he was on the podium, third step of the podium in Copa Shell AM yesterday, and Yusaku Maezawa, the renowned member of the Japanese elite, a man who is very, very popular both in Japan and internationally. Very exciting to see how he goes in this race. There is Fujiwara then. He will be on the second row of the grid for this one. Makoto Fujiwara for the Cornez Shiba dealership. It is all Cornez dealer group entries, right down from 3rd on the grid down to 7th on the grid. Shiba, Osaka and Nagoya among the dealerships represented. The Cornez Group, the biggest partner of Ferrari in Japan from a dealership perspective. But it is the Rosso Scuderia driver Yudai Uchida with the limelight, with pole position. So then our cars are lining up. Of course, you see there our 488 Challenge Evo machines that we've grown accustomed to over the years. The Evo kit has been on these cars for a number of years. Of course, prior to that, the Ferrari 488 Challenge debuting 8 years ago, the 488 Challenge machine. A very, very versatile piece of machinery, a piece of machinery that all of these engineers know very well now, as do some of our more experienced drivers. There is Yudai Uchida giving us a wave, as we saw there. He is ready to go. He is now leading the championship, of course, after taking that win yesterday. He was the leader of the points among the season regulars coming out of Suzuka. But of course, with Furutani taking both wins, Furutani was strictly the points leader. But now it is indeed Yudai Uchida who leads the championship. There's Yugo Iwasawa, second position on the grid. He would love, now that he's got a little bit more mileage, he's got a race under his belt in this car, he would love to get a victory out of this. Furutani has proven that it's certainly possible for a young racing driver to jump into these cars and immediately start winning against some of the fastest drivers in the Asian region. We saw that from Furutani, and Yugo Iwasawa would love to add a race victory too. Will it be 3 different winners in 4 races then? That's going to be a good statistic if we do get that today, but it is going to rely on Iwasawa. But let's not rule out Makoto Fujiwara either. Fujiwara looked very quick in qualifying yesterday and today. Of course, on lap 1 of the race, he had a spin yesterday, which maybe slightly stunted his momentum a bit for the rest of the race. Dropped himself down outside of the top 10 on the first lap of the race with a spin, but had got himself up to second position after the lights went out. I expect him to be quick once again, but of course he's going to have to worry about Atsushi Iritani. The black and pink machine, we cannot miss this car. Commentator's delight is the car that you won't mistake for another. Thanks for that, Atsushi. And he is going to be starting from row 2 of the grid. He will be pursued, though, by Akita, the number 16, of course. 1 overall podium to his name this season. And with just 2 of the Trofeo Pirelli cars taking the start, the 2 cars on the front row, perhaps there is an opportunity for Akita to once again find himself on the overall podium. There is the 16 car. His adversary for most of the season so far, Cold Max, hasn't had a good qualifying at all. Cold Max is down in 16th on the grid. Those two had a great fight yesterday and also had a great fight in race 2 at Suzuka, but Cold Max is going to have to work very hard to even get into the top 10 now with this qualifying performance there. Uchida and Iwasawa on the front row, Fujiwara and Iritani on row 2, then it's Akita and Shimoyama, the first Copa Shell driver, Yagura and Shirasaki on row 4 of the grid. Row 5, Desuke and Motohiko Isosaki, Miura and Kim, Kunihiro and Kawasaki, Maezawa, the first of the Copa Shell Arms, alongside Cold Max. Cold Max with work to do. Yaneda, Toyoda, Hiwatashi and Saito bringing us down to 20th. Then it's Nakajima, Shibata, Umuri and Komatsu bringing you down to 24th position. John Leo, Fukuda, Kenichi, Tetsuo Matsumoto, Yamaguchi, Kurakawa and Nozaki bringing us a 30-car grid. High point this season. A real high point in terms of entry numbers. The circuit that we are taking to then is one that most of you will be familiar with. It is the Fuji International Speedway. Tsutomu Shimoyama is familiar with the track, and here is a look at it from above. 16 corners of this circuit to consider. Turn 1, the obvious overtaking opportunity, of course, but you have to set that up at turn 16. A par or mediocre run out of the final corner, and you won't get a shot into turn 1. And then, of course, going downhill towards turn 10 Also a good overtaking opportunity as well, but we saw lots of overtaking, lots of side-by-side action less than 24 hours ago here at Fuji Speedway in race 1, and we fully expect more of that to come this time around in our second race of the weekend, race 4 of the season total. We've had many exciting weekends of racing, or many exciting battles among our races so far this year. Yusaku Maezawa with the high ground in Copa Shell Am, then he is on Shell Am pole position on his first weekend in motor racing. The renowned entrepreneur is there on 15th position on the grid, and he will be very excited to go racing. You can see the excitement in his eyes. Certainly a thrill seeker, has been up to space. We did tell you this yesterday, but I think it bears repeating. He is the only driver on this grid, to my knowledge, that has spent 12 days at the International Space Station. That is a statistic for the ages. You see there, 4 lights above the start gantry. That means that in a little under 4 minutes, we will be rolling on the formation lap. Of course, 2x2 rolling start at the top of these Ferrari Challenge Japan races. And thereafter, it is half an hour plus 1 lap of racing, 30 minutes plus 1 lap. And I'm sure the drivers will be hoping for a slightly clearer run of things this time. We did have a red flag interruption because of Nobuhiro Imada's incident yesterday as well. It was a dramatic incident for him, but as we said at the top of the broadcast, he is fine and is looking forward to coming back racing again next time out, of course. A great list of circuits that we go to in the Ferrari Challenge Japan calendar. We've ticked off Suzuka once, but thankfully we don't only have to do it once. We have 2 opportunities to head to Suzuka in this season, which is certainly a sought-after thing. The Suzuka circuit is one of the most famous venues on earth when it comes to motor racing by and large. And they'll be looking forward to going there. Of course, Fuji is where we are at the moment. We'll be back to Suzuka later in the year. But before that, we go to Sugo. Sugo is our next destination. 2 events actually in June. It will be a busy June for these drivers. Sugo at the start of the month, Suzuka at the end of the month, and then Okayama, the final destination of the year for Ferrari Challenge Japan. And then many of the drivers, of course, will make the pilgrimage to Finale Mondiale, the famous season closer for the Ferrari Challenge drivers, as well as a celebration of all things great and good in the world of Ferrari. Well, as you can see there, it's certainly not optimal conditions. That is a big cloud that is obstructing the sharp end of Fuji at the moment. I just wonder whether that might be a factor before the end of this one around this 16-corner circuit. Fuji International Speedway, of course, its most famous chapter perhaps in its international history was a wet day in 1976. We know that the weather can turn here at Fuji. There have been a great many wet-dry races here over the years. Of course, the Fuji circuit has been open now for the better part of 60 years. It was initially designed to be more of a US-style circuit, oval racing. I think the intention was to bring NASCAR over to Japan many years before they ran exhibition events at Suzuka. But ultimately we would end up with a more conventional road course, that went through a couple of redesigns over the years, of course. It used to be a very fast circuit going back to the 1980s, some chicanes added going into the 1990s. And then this complete redesign going into the mid-2000s. This current layout has been the situation here at Fuji since 2005. And of course, shortly after that reconfiguration and redevelopment of the circuit, Formula One was welcomed back here for a while as a Japanese Grand Prix host once again in the late 2000s. That was the past, and this is now. We are rolling on the formation lap here. Ferrari Challenge Japan race number 2 is just a few moments away. Yudai Uchida will be looking to make it 2 wins from 2 here in Fuji. And the same applies as well for Motohiko Isosaki. Isosaki was able to claim his first victory of the season yesterday in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but he's got a bit of work to do to get onto terms with the front runners in Pirelli Am this weekend. He's even got some Copa Shell runners to contest with. There is the 55 car of Isosaki, was just coming through shot as we cut away there. He's just behind Deske as well on his return to the series after missing Suzuka. The grid that we have already stated to you, running underneath the red graphics applied to Trofeo Pirelli. Pirelli Am is in white, Copa Shell is in yellow, and then the kind of grey-black backgrounds, the first of whom is Yusaku Maezawa, who we see there on screen, 15th on the grid. That is the Copa Shell runners in the white numbers with the grey-black backgrounds. In Copa Shell yesterday, it was Shirasaki who claimed his second consecutive victory. Rather, third consecutive victory. Of course, is yet to be defeated this season. So Shirasaki looking to continue his 100% record, and then in the Copa Shell Am class, it's going to be Masafumi Hiwatashi who is going to be trying to match his performance from yesterday. However, Iwatashi starting from just third in class this time around, behind both Maezawa and Takashi Toyoda as well. So Toyoda getting a good qualifying session in there. Some great names up and down the grid. Some very fast drivers that we can expect to be in the midst of battle here. Will it be Iwasawa versus Uchida at the front, or will we get the likes of Fujiwara, maybe even Iritani or Akita, the first of the Trofeo Pirelli Am runners? Will they get involved with that lead battle as well? They certainly have the potential to do so if it's a good day for them. This is going to be a very, very exciting race then in a Ferrari Challenge Japan. 30 Ferrari 488 Challenge Evos are about to take the start. That is an incredible amount of power lining up on the grid. Over 20,000 horsepower about to launch off the line here. 670 horsepower apiece. These are very, very special, very, very fast racing cars. And traditionally speaking, Yudai Uchida has been the man to beat. Today is the opportunity for Yugo Iwasawa to try and be one of the very few drivers to have ever beaten Yudai Uchida in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Season 2, round 2, race 2 begins now. We go racing. 30 minutes of action begins here. It's a good start from Yudai Uchida. It's a good start as well from Iwasawa, and a very good start as well. I believe that's Kanji Yagura there looking to the inside. Fujiwara, though, getting past Iwasawa. Iwasawa getting swallowed up a little bit there. Akita running wide on the exit of the first corner as well. Everybody trying to find track space through the first turns, but a commanding lead already for Yudai Uchida. Look at that, 3-4 car lengths potentially as they go through 100R for the first time. A very positive start then for Yudai Uchida at the front of the field. Certainly a very different set of conditions and temperatures for the drivers to contend with today. Through the 300R section of the circuit they now go towards turn 10. Everybody funneling through the tricky, you want to call it a chicane, but it's almost in reality a double hairpin there. Down at turn 10, 11 and 12. Everybody seems to have navigated that nicely, but there's the big story, I would say, out of lap 1 of the race. For the second race in a row, up into second position, has gone the 13 car, has gone Makoto Fujiwara. It's going to be Yuda Uchida who crosses the line at the front of the field, but Makoto Fujiwara is just behind him, 1.4 seconds off though. There's Shimoyama under pressure from Deske. Deske is running quite well. Shimoyama down to 7th place, but still leading among the Copa Shell runners at the moment. A bit of a wide moment there for Atsushi Iritani. That draws Shimoyama alongside him as Deske keeps a watching brief. Side by side through this section of circuit, that's always very difficult to accomplish, and Shimoyama runs out of road. Deske then around the outside, challenging now for 4th position in Trofeo Pirelli Am. He's got past the Copa Shell leader there, Shimoyama in the silver bullet, but next up Atsushi Iritani will be the next obstacle. Phil Kim also making some good progress in the 199 car. He's up into the top 10 for Nicole Competizione, the sole Korean driver, South Korean driver on the grid. Power out of T12. Deske making good progress. Currently running in 7th place. Iwasawa is going to be very aware of the fact that any moment spent behind Makoto Fujiwara is going to be one where he's not challenging Yuda Uchida, and Uchida I would expect to be fractionally faster than Fujiwara. So Fujiwara could be doing Uchida a lot of favours here by keeping Yugo Iwasawa at bay. 1.7 seconds is the gap between the leader and second place, as you can see on the timing tower there. Cold Max is up into 13th position, so he's made a little bit of headway, but perhaps not enough just yet. The green and yellow car going through shot is Nariki Kawasaki, the president of the Japanese Ferrari Owners Club. Oh, a dive to the inside there as well. That was 156 going through there. In fact, I think it might have been Umuri. No, the 166. Sorry, Takashi Toyoda that was going through there, making up a position, I think, potentially against Saito. But, some overtakes through the field then. While that's going on, second and third place looking very close together as Iwasawa is also going to have to worry a little bit about what's going on behind him, because Akita is looking very quick at the moment. Iwasawa, though, with a very good run out of turn 12. You could see him there just slingshot out of the corner. Very nicely managed on the throttle out of 11 and through 12. Makoto Fujiwara remains in the strong position, remains there at the front. We saw this yesterday as well. Iwasawa just putting his nose to the inside at the last corner, but sometimes that can come at the expense of a good run out of the final turn, and of course a good run out of the final turn is the only way to get a good setup for this long kilometre front straight that then leads into the all-important braking zone at turn 1. Akita getting closer as well. He definitely got a good run out of the last turn, closed in on Iwasawa towards the end of the straight. Akita, of course, second in Pirelli Am at the moment, behind Makoto Fujiwara within the Trofeo Pirelli Am order at the moment. There is your leader in Copa Shell Am, that's Maezawa. Meanwhile, though, very close between Iwatashi and Toyoda. That was Toyoda trying to get to the inside of Iwatashi. Meanwhile, Iwasawa is certainly giving Fujiwara a lot to think about in this battle for second position overall. Run down towards chicane at the moment. It was a good run through the hairpin at turn 6 for Iwasawa. Certainly, Iwasawa is giving Fujiwara a lot to think about, but Akita equally is kind of the part of this battle that we have to keep in mind, because as soon as Fujiwara and Iwasawa start to fight like this, things get a little bit more spicy with Akita's prospects as well. Akita has stood on the overall podium already this season. Of course, we're doing 4 podiums for this weekend. We have a podium for each class at the Japanese Grand Prix, though. We only had 1 podium, and that was the overall top 3. And Akita is Trofeo Pirelli AM winner at the Japanese Grand Prix first race of the weekend for us in Ferrari Challenge Japan. He managed to stand on that overall podium, was so happy to do so, and would love that buzz of being in the overall top 3 once again. It's a 3-way scrap then for second position overall at the moment. Fujiwara, Iwasawa and Akita second, third and fourth place, and that was a real sideways moment there from Fujiwara, which I think he just caught the lip of the curb on the inside of turn 5, the second part of 100 up, and just unsettled the car. And it was the exit of turn 5 yesterday where he had his spin. Getting a bit too close for comfort here. Akita having a little look to the inside there at the apex of turn 11. Ended up scrubbing his momentum, but Iwasawa there, I think, got slightly roadblocked by Fujiwara going into 10. That meant that Iwasawa faced a little bit of a challenge from Akita at turn 11. That's the kind of domino effect you see in these 3-car battles. To recap then, it is Uchida at the front of the pack, and Uchida's lead is extending massively as Fujiwara continues to fight now with both Iwasawa and Akita behind him. This fighting between the 3 is allowing Uchida to check out and disappear up the road. What is the gap now? It was 3.2 seconds. It is now 4.2 seconds, so a second a lap in favour of Uchida at the moment. That's very good going. 8th overall and first among the Copa Shell runners is Tsutomu Shimoyama, and still leading in the Shell AM category is Yusaku Maezawa. Maezawa 17th overall for the time being, and narrowly leads in that class. However, he is being closed in on at the moment by Takashi Toyoda as well, so that's something to consider. Cold Max, meanwhile, who we see on screen here, is running 12th place for the moment. Just managed to get himself past Kawasaki, but what happened to Kawasaki? Because he went missing there. I was just looking at my timing screen at the time, I must admit, and I think Kawasaki may have had a little bit of a moment there after Cold Max got through. In fact, no, he's just dropped off, hasn't he? Yes, Kawasaki is still there, but he's lost time to Cold Max and is now in the clutches of Kunihiro, Miura and Yaneda behind. There's Maezawa. Now, oh, this was a move potentially for the Copa Shell AM lead. Yes, it was. Iwatashi to the inside line, and was that a move that stuck? It looked like it did. Yes, so there's been a change in Copa Shell AM then. Yusaku Maezawa has been demoted to second place by Masafumi Iwatashi for the time being, so the European version entered car now leads the way. It's the 129 ahead of the 177. Let's see if we can see a fight back then from Maezawa. Just over 10 minutes complete in this race. 30 minutes plus 1 lap is our distance in this race. turning into the corner there is Shirasaki under pressure from Phil Kim, and then behind them is Motohiko Isosaki. Isosaki, of course, running in Trofeo Pirelli AM. He's behind the top three there in Copa Shell. There's, of course, no mechanical differences between the cars in any of these four classes. They've all got even machinery, and with the Copa Shell trio looking very fast here, and also, of course, having their own battle, Isosaki has quite a tough time to try and find his way by. Kim there drifting a little bit wide out of the hairpin, but that gave him a good run out of the corner. Fujiwara, Iwasawa and Akita come accelerating once again into this final section of the circuit that is so critical. Plenty of challenging technical corners here. The cambers can really catch you out if you're new to the circuit. And goodness me, Fujiwara there with the rear end just giving him a little grief under braking, but he managed to get it sorted very nicely indeed. Now Iwasawa looks like he's setting up for a good run out of the final turn, and he executed that perfectly. He's now right under the rear wing of Makoto Fujiwara. Straight line speed then is the next question. The cars are identical though, so there's not really much to talk about there. The slipstream though, of course, is important, and that's what Iwasawa has in his favour. He has the outside line now into turn one, and Makoto Fujiwara there drifting a little wide of apex, I think, at the first corner, but manages to remain in second position nonetheless. Iwasawa really has his work cut out here trying to get past Makoto Fujiwara. It's Fujiwara's first weekend of the season, of course, in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We didn't see him at Suzuka, but he is twice a Copa Shell champion in Ferrari Challenge Asia Pacific, the effective forebearer to this series. So he is a champion in Ferrari machinery. He knows what he's doing at the wheel of these cars, and that is why, for all of Yugo Iwasawa's history of racing GT cars, racing single-seaters at a high level here in Japan, he is struggling to find a way past Makoto Fujiwara. Fujiwara definitely knows what he's doing, and he knows how to make the car wide, and that's exactly what he's been doing. He has been doing it at the expense of his own lap pace, though. He's 7.5 seconds off the leader, Yudai Uchida. So Iwasawa looks to the inside there at turn 15, but time certainly working against him here. That's a big gap that Iwasawa would now have to make up on Uchida to have any shot of a race victory. Fujiwara again, as I said earlier on, doing Uchida a lot of favours, really. He is, of course, running a separate class from the numbers 1 and 2 cars, running in Trofeo Pirelli AM and leading in Trofeo Pirelli AM as well. You might be thinking, well, why doesn't he just let him through? Well, he shouldn't. There's no reason for him to allow Iwasawa through, firstly. And secondly, of course, if he were to decide, well, I don't want to defend from the number 2 car anymore, he might find himself under pressure from Akita, and certainly Hiwatashi is under big pressure now from Maizawa. Maizawa with a very good run out of the final corner. Drag race then down to turn 1. Will Maizawa reclaim the Copa Shell AM lead? He has a nose ahead, he has a car ahead as they go down to turn 1. Will he get it stopped first? Yes, very nice driving there from Maizawa in the 177. Does he get it through turn 1? Okay, yes he does. Very nicely executed. And Maizawa is up into the Copa Shell AM lead once more, but we've not seen the last of that battle or this one, as once again very close between Fujiwara and Iwasawa here. Fujiwara has been really under increasing scrutiny. The last 2 laps, it's looked like Iwasawa is no longer sizing him up. He really is now just eager and increasingly impatient to just try and find a way through. It can get frustrating. He's been looking at the rear of that car since turn 1, lap 1. Makoto Fujiwara has been doing a great job of staving off Yugo Iwasawa. Iwasawa, the second driver that we've seen this year, entered in the kind of Ferrari Japan junior car that we've got, the new initiative to welcome even more young talent into Ferrari Challenge in Japan specifically. Of course, we've seen so much young talent come through Ferrari Challenge in more recent years, has become equal parts hotbed for talented amateur racers and a development tool for young GT stars, or indeed young general racing stars of the future. Atsushi's Iritani, we just saw there, is also starting to get involved with the battle for second overall. Iritani, with all of that going on up ahead of him, in fact, sorry, it was Kanji Yagura closing in on Akita, so it's almost a four-car battle now. And look at that, we just saw that we're seeing the battle now between Kunihiro, Miura and Yaneda, but just behind them, Maezawa, the Copa Shell Am leader, is closing in as Yaneda gets his nose cut off a little bit there by Kazutaka Miura, but Maezawa is actually now getting away from Hiwatashi quite quickly. One car a little bit off the pace there as we follow the leaders through the last couple of corners. They're starting to have to contend with some lap traffic as well. I think the likes of Matsumoto and Yamaguchi among those just being put a lap down at the moment. In fact, I think that might have been Fukawa who got put down a lap there by this battle for second place. Nonetheless, look at the gap, 12.4 seconds now between Uchida and Fujiwara, a big gap that is developing. Uchida is dominating in this race and Fujiwara is doing a fabulous job of holding on to this second position overall. Again, he can't afford to let Iwasawa by, because if he does do that, then what happens next? Akita, even Yagura could then go sliding through and demote him. Shimoyama, meanwhile, is under pressure from Yasutaka Shirasaki, and this, of course, is a very important battle. It is the Copa Shell lead, and it marks Shirasaki trying to defend his 100% record of race wins. That's a big dive at the hairpin turn 6 from Shirasaki. Shimoyama, though, gets back through, kind of undercuts him out of the corner. Shimoyama and Shirasaki in a reverse of yesterday, of course. Yesterday it was Shirasaki in the lead and Shimoyama making the big bold dives to try and move up into Copa Shell victory. This time it's Shimoyama that leads and Shirasaki that's trying to get his overtaking on. And Phil Kim is right there in the scrap as well. Phil Kim, who had a mixed weekend at Suzuka, had very good pace but didn't really get the results to correlate it. A couple of instances of contact at Suzuka that damaged his car. Oh goodness, that was a big slide from Shirasaki coming out of the last corner. Shirasaki has just lost a bit of time there to Shimoyama. It's something like a second now. Shirasaki, I think, will be back on the rear of Shimoyama before too long. Here is our race leader then. 2/3 distance almost in this race. 10.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. And Yudai Uchida, largely sight unseen, has been putting on a masterclass at the front of the pack. He's got Fujiwara, Iwasawa and Co fighting behind him. That means he can focus on the road ahead, focus on the task at hand, and remind everybody that he is the dominant force of Ferrari Challenge Japan. And here is a great visual illustration of the gap. Here comes Fujiwara. Iwasawa, Akita and Yagura on his tail, and look at Yagura, big dive at turn 10, and Akita carries the momentum nicely around the outside. They're still side by side at turn 11, and Akita just about holds on, but great wheel-to-wheel racing between the two of them. Yagura goes for it again. Oh goodness me, very well avoided there from Yagura. I thought he was well too late into the corner, but he just about managed to find room for himself, and Akita was courteous enough to leave the inside open, but he also managed to keep the momentum going through turn 13. Nice driving from both parties, but that has freed up Iwasawa a little bit. That could be bad news for Makoto Fujiwara. For the first time in half dozen laps, maybe more, Iwasawa isn't having to look at the rear view mirrors because Akita and Yagura have started fighting each other. And that means that Fujiwara now has an undistracted Yugo Iwasawa in his rear view mirrors. Shimoyama still building his lead at the moment over Shirasaki. I think Shirasaki is now starting to have to think more about Phil Kim behind him in the battle for Copa Shell honours. Here further back is Desuke having his fight here with Atsushi Iritani, I believe that is. Just behind them is Coldmax. In fact, no, that's one of the cars further back in the field, I think, the yellow machine, because that is not Motohiko Isosaki. Indeed, this is just Coldmax making up some track time, or making up some track position on cars a little further down the order, but Coldmax still only running in 12th position, some 7 seconds off of Isosaki in 11th place. This hasn't been a particularly wonderful race for Coldmax. We know he can fight for overall podiums. We've seen him do it before. Talking of overall podiums, 2nd and 3rd place so close together there through turn 14, 15. It was very close quarters action between Fujiwara and Iwasawa, but they just about managed to find room. These guys at the front of the pack are very good at this. I don't know how they do it sometimes. It looks for the world of you as if they are going to collide. They just find room. Very, very talented drivers, very, very aware drivers fighting it out here for the podium positions. Again to the inside goes Yagura for 4th position, and again Akita manages to hold on. Yagura a bit deep into the corner there, but those are the moves you can make at turn 1. It's a long, long braking zone, even with these high-performance brakes on this Ferrari Challenge machine. It's still a very long braking zone. This is a very long corner, very long right-hander, and Iwasawa looked very quick through 100R that time, right on the back of Fujiwara. That's a good run out of the hairpin as well, but he's got the unfavoured outside line potentially for the braking zone at turn 10. Through 300R they go. And Fujiwara indeed just negotiates himself to the inside line, makes sure that he has got the high ground. Bit of lap traffic up ahead that they had to consider there. That was John Leo, I believe, in the 108 car. He's running 26th overall, but nicely within the top 10 in the very competitive and very deep Copa Shell Am order. Next target for this battle is Yoshifumi Komatsu. Also racing under the Nicole Competizione banner that Phil Kim is running under. And oh goodness me, Fujiwara there leading a little bit on Komatsu. Akita going past Komatsu as well now. 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th all cross the line. Still separated by not much at all, but even less separation in the Copa Shell lead. Shirasaki has once again found himself on the rear of Shimoyama. Can Tsutomu Shimoyama hold on? Well, not if Shirasaki dives that late. Surely he's not going to get that stop, though. No, he does not. Shirasaki has to watch Shimoyama go past once again. Frustrating, I think, a little bit for Yasutaka Shirasaki. The 170 car of Matsumoto is stopped there at turn 10. Less than 5 minutes of the race remaining. There's your battle for 2nd place coming down the hill. Out of turn 12 they come. Uchida's gap is 18 seconds at the front of the order. He's already, I think, on to the main straight. Such is his lead as these drivers go through the complex final sector. this incredible Fuji International Speedway facility. 170 car is rolling again for Matsumoto, but comes to a halt there on the surface. He was out of harm's way before, maybe not so much now. Here comes Iwasawa. He got a good run out of the final corner, and Iwasawa is looking very feisty now on the back of Makoto Fujiwara. Fujiwara doing everything he can to state his intention. I'm taking the inside line. Iwasawa goes to the outside. Oh, that's too deep, far too deep into the corner. Both parties were very late on the brakes. Now, where is Akita versus Iwasawa? He's a little bit further back than I thought. Iwasawa, though, did well to keep that car together. Once you're on that AstroTurf that lines the outside of turn one, it can easily end up with a spin. Here's Kim as well. Kim now challenging for the lead in Copa Shell. So Phil Kim is up to second in Copa Shell, but he gets unsettled there, and Shirasaki unfortunately tags the rear of Kim and sends himself into a spin. Shirasaki will continue on, but there goes the 100% record for Yasutaka Shirasaki. 3 wins in 3 races so far this year. Unfortunately, win number 4 is now a long shot at best. But Phil Kim is right there on the back then of Shimoyama, and Phil Kim may yet be a challenger. He has led a Copa Shell race so far this year in Ferrari Challenge Japan. He is yet to win one, though. Akita and Yagura running side by side through the final turn, almost side by side at least. Less than 2 minutes, or just over 2 minutes left on the clock as well, so time is running out. Yagura in the slipstream of Akita. That could be a move on for 4th position and second in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Yagura to the inside line, and I think he may well get this one stopped. No, still a bit too late on the brakes there. I do wonder if they've got a little bit of tailwind to contend with going into turn 1 as well today. You've got the car being effectively pushed into the corner by winds as well. That can have a big effect on how it slows down. Less of a profound impact on a big GT car versus something like a single-seater, but it's still a possibility that that is an effect. Oh, and Iwasawa is right there now with Fujiwara side by side again out of the hairpin. This time it looked like Fujiwara just didn't get the best run out of turn 6, and Iwasawa not quite getting the clearest of runs down towards turn 10. But these two, it feels like they've been on hopefully a metaphorical collision course all race long. Here comes Iwasawa looking to the inside at turn 13. Can't get it done there. Now, is he going to play his cards right here? You'd think the right thing to do is to set yourself up out of this final corner for a move at turn 1. So much easier said than done to make that move at the first corner, as we've seen repeatedly in this race. Yagura off the circuit there in the back of shot as well behind Akita. So Yagura, I think, getting a little bit unsettled further back. That could free up Akita to maybe challenge again. These two drivers fighting for second place, we'll see. Fujiwara and Iwasawa down the main straight for what will be the penultimate time in this race. Clock will hit 0, and then there will be one more lap at the end of the race after that. So we are less than 2 laps from home here. Yudai Uchida 23 seconds clear of this battle. Meanwhile, we look here at Mochigo Isosaki. He's just putting a lap on another driver. Meanwhile, behind him is the car of, I think that was Shirasaki. Shirasaki and Coldmax, in fact, that is, having a battle. Shirasaki, of course, making his way back through the order after his moment. And here is, once again, Iwasawa to the outside line. He's not been afforded the inside at any point in these battles. Kanji Yagura deep deep into turn 10 there as well. That cost him a lot of time. That 10, 11, 12 section of the circuit is one where if you miss the first apex, you're not getting any of the subsequent ones either. Yudai Uchida then will begin the final lap this time by, and does so with an absolutely astonishing lead. A lead that I think stretches the entirety of the mighty main straight here at Fuji International Speedway. That is a graphic illustration of just what a performance this has been from Yudai Uchida. Uchida leads the way then. Fujiwara is still there in second place, but he has still got Iwasawa right on his boot lid. Iwasawa again not close enough at turn 1. Oh, but Fujiwara losing the rear a little bit there. That could be the opportunity. That will stifle his momentum slightly out of the first corner, but actually Fujiwara gathered it up nicely. Comes in as last year's F4 Japan Independence Cup champion. Has been developing his skill set in single-seaters, comes back to Ferrari Challenge Japan and is making a big statement about how far he's come as a driver since winning his Copa Shell Championships in the Asia Pacific Series several years ago. By holding off this man, Yugo Iwasawa, this has been a great battle, and Fujiwara still has the high ground in a fight that has been going on for the entirety of this half-hour race. Fujiwara, oh, look at that, Iwasawa being dived there by Akita, a little bit of contact between them, and that could open up the door to Yagura, but Yagura gets pushed off the circuit there by Akita. And while all of that is going on, Yudai Uchida is going to cross the line to claim the race win, so far clear of that battle for second place. Who's there in second position, though? That's the big question. Where's Makoto Fujiwara? He's clear now of Yugo Iwasawa after that moment behind. Iwasawa got lunged by Akita, and Akita nearly lost out to Kanji Yagura. Yagura did a good job of keeping the car in a straight line on the grass as well. Second place then, and Trofeo Pirelli glory goes to Makoto Fujiwara. Iwasawa finishes third place, 2 podiums for him on his first ever weekend in a Ferrari Challenge car. Akita second in Pirelli and here is your Copa Shell winner. Tsutomu Shimoyama takes it from Phil Kim. Phil Kim really did keep him looking in the mirrors, though, towards the end of that race. Shirasaki takes 10th place, and Coldmax has leapfrogged Motohiko Isosaki on the last lap of the race. Meanwhile, as he challenges Nariki Kawasaki for 16th overall, Yusaku Maezawa is going to take the Copa Shell win. Or is he? Because right there with him as well is Hiwatashi and Saito. Now, what kind of run did the 177 car get out of the last corner? It was good enough, and it will be a win in Copa Shell on his first ever weekend of racing for Yusaku Maezawa. That is going to be something that he will celebrate in a big way. He was delighted with that third position 24 hours ago. And he follows it up with a first ever Copa Shell victory on his first weekend racing in formal motorsport setting. A great effort then from Yusaku Maezawa. The rest of the field coming across the line at the moment. There's the last car on the lead lap across the line. Norikazu Shibata, everyone else now making their way back into pit lane, including our race winner, Yudai Uchida. He is always the man to beat when it comes to Ferrari Challenge racing on the Asian continent. Has been doing this now for for 5 years. My maths is bad. And 3 times a champion, immediately a race winner in Ferrari Challenge. Has been both highly rated and held in high regard by all parties in Ferrari Challenge, and indeed at his dealership Rosso Scuderia, who I'm sure love The fact that they've got such a talented driver to hoist their flag. Incidentally, Rosso Scuderia will continue to lead Coppa Dealer with this result for Yudai Uchida. He is elated with his first perfect weekend of the year. Didn't get that pole position, of course, in the first qualifying, but the two big trophies, the two victory trophies, will both end up on Yudai Uchida's mantle. There's Tsutomu Shimoyama. He, of course, is the first of the Copa Shell runners. Koto Fujiwara winning in Trofeo Pirelli Am, but fighting hard for that second overall as well. And the body language told the story there. He had a great scrap with Yugo Iwasawa. Second overall, as well as the Pirelli Am win, is a great result for Fujiwara. There is Tsutomu Shimoyama as well. Number one for him. And that battle for second place really was a great illustration of just how close the Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers are to those in the top Trofeo Pirelli class. Fujiwara, Akita, Yagura, all right there in the ballpark with Yugo Iwasawa in that battle. And there, pulling up under the podium, is your 177 car, Yusaku Maezawa. For the first time, pulls up to the podium ceremony as a race winner in Copa Shell Am. That is a very, very happy man and a very, very happy team as well. Maezawa with a great race, of course, had to fight there with Masafumi Hiwatashi at various points to continue to be the leader in Copa Shell Am. I very much look forward to seeing his progress across the season if he can already go from a podium finish to a win in Copa Shell Am. Where might he be after a few races under his belt? That will be very exciting to chart that progress. Meanwhile, though, Yudai Uchida making sure he looks as smart as possible for his P1 picture. Yudai has been number one when it comes to Ferrari Challenge Japan all throughout the series' short existence, and Uchida wins again ahead of Fujiwara and Iwasawa in the top three. Akita, Yagura, Iritani, Desuke, Shimoyama, Phil Kim, and Shirasaki rounding out your top 10. Coldmax beating Isasaki on the final lap. But down there in 17th, Yusaku Maezawa winning in Copa Shell Am ahead of Hiwatashi and Saito. And it's also worth noting as well, of course, the Copa Shell victory going to Shimoyama, who beat Phil Kim, who we saw on the first page. A record entry list this weekend, 32 starters yesterday, 30 today. The best weekend when it comes to numbers that we've had in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and another fabulous weekend in Ferrari Challenge Japan when it comes to the racing action as well. Let's take a look then at the highlights of this race. It was a great start from Uchida, and also from behind him, Fujiwara got a very good start down into the first corner. Wasn't even the best of actual starts, but it was more so that he was very late on the brakes into turn one. Managed to catch out Yugo Iwasawa and moved up to second place. Kanji Yagura was also looking to the inside at the first corner. Everybody, of course, looking to try and make some positions up in the early stages of the race, as you would expect. But it was Fujiwara who followed Yudai Uchida at the first turn, and it would be Fujiwara in second place then, doing a lot of work to retain that position from that point onwards. Great scrapping all through the order. The Silver Bullet, of course, the 152 car, was in a lot of battles. Shimoyama getting in amongst it with some of the Pirelli Am runners. That was him fighting Iritani and Deske, of course, but he was the Copa Shell leader at that point. He was simply trying to make up some overall positions, but behind him is where the focus was. Shirasaki second in class. Coldmax, meanwhile, trying to make up some positions after qualifying outside the top 10, got himself past Kawasaki as these battles continued on. And the Copa Shell Am battle, a switch between Maizawa and Hiwatashi. But Hiwatashi a lap later would find Maizawa on his back again. In fact, by the time they got to turn 1, Maizawa was through. It's a good run out of the final corner, a drag race down to turn 1. And Maizawa got it stopped in time and moved back into his Copa Shell Am lead. And from there, despite the best efforts of Hiwatashi and indeed Saito behind, it would be Maizawa in the lead of Copa Shell Am to the flag. Motohiko Isosaki would be working his way through the back markers. Meanwhile, Coldmax would be having a scrap with Shirasaki. That was Coldmax just looking for the inside of Shirasaki. Shirasaki's pace here at Fuji has been fabulous. Of course, we saw Shirasaki, though, having a moment, colliding with the rear of Phil Kim, and that's why he was further down the order than he had been early in the race. Another little bit of a tag between Iwasawa and Akita. And Akita leaning on Kanji Yagura as well, all getting a bit messy towards the end of the race as they fought for those overall podium places. But Yuda Uchida was all on his own at the sharp end of the order, claimed a brilliant win ahead of Makoto Fujiwara, second overall and first in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Shimoyama claiming it in Copa Shell, and a first ever race win in Copa Shell Am going to this man, Yusaku Maizawa, much to the delight, I'm sure, of the many supporters of his in the paddock and indeed watching along with us this afternoon. Businessman, superstar, spaceman, and now a handy driver of a race car as well. Yusaku Maizawa with a race victory in Copa Shell Am. Overall victory, though, going to Yuda Uchida. We'll see him up onto the podium along with the rest of the Trofeo Pirelli podium finishers. Well, the only other Trofeo Pirelli podium finisher, Yugo Iwasawa, in the next few minutes. Of course, we do expect to see Nobuhiro Imada back in Trofeo Pirelli from Sugo onwards. We didn't end up seeing any interference from that cloud cover hanging over the back end of the Fuji International Speedway, which maybe is for the best, but it certainly is looming large. Here's our local announcer to welcome the first podiums onto the steps.
表彰式の進行を務めます久保田康介です。どうぞよろしくお願いします。それではまずはじめにトロフェオピレリクラスの表彰です。選手をお呼びしましょう。第2位カーナンバー2フェラーリジャパン岩沢優吾選手です。どうぞお越しください。
Yugo Iwasawa then second in Trofeo Pirelli today. He'll be pretty happy with his first weekend. He's certainly been enjoying driving this car. But when it comes to driving this car, the 488 Challenge Evo, Yuda Uchida is something quite special. A Schumacher-esque victory leap to celebrate his win. It's trophy time then for our drivers. Second place trophy once again to Yugo Iwasawa. Valuable experience learned of a different GT platform. Already has some GT3 and GT4 mileage under his belt. But Yuda Uchida now has 2 race wins this season. He didn't get the chance to hoist a first place trophy in Suzuka, but he's more than made up for it in Fuji. as with yesterday, representatives from Ferrari and indeed Pirelli Motorsport Japan presenting trophies to our winners. And after this photo, we'll start to see a little bit more champagne on the grid, I expect, or on the podium, I expect. We saw some fun spray battles between everybody yesterday on these 4 podiums. These guys are all great friends. They like to celebrate together after these races, and we see that on the podium. And Uchida. And indeed, Yugo Iwasawa spray the champagne. Cheers to that, Yudai. Championship leader, Yudai Uchida. Uchida-san is back at the top of the standings. Will he make it a second consecutive Ferrari Challenge Japan season? A second consecutive championship? We'll have to wait and see. There's a long way to go. But certainly Uchida's results so far have pointed in that direction. Next up will be Trofeo Pirelli Am. Yagura, Akita and Fujiwara expected on this podium, of course. Here comes Kanji Yagura will be welcomed on to the podium. There's Kanji Yagura, had some very brave attempts at the overtake, couldn't get it done, but he seems happy nonetheless. Here, though, is Akita, always delighted to be on the podium. But second place overall. And Trofeo Pirelli Am winner Makoto Fujiwara takes a well-deserved top step. Fujiwara made an error yesterday, didn't get his opportunity to fight for the top step after making an error on the first lap, but more than rectified that today, coming out on top of a brilliant battle with Yugo Iwasawa. Kanji Yagura caught up to Fujiwara, Iwasawa and Akita. 5th place overall and 3rd in Trofeo Pirelli Am is his reward. Akita taking 2nd in class. And Makoto Fujiwara holds his trophy high. Looking forward to seeing if he can maybe try and get some overall wins before the end of the year. The racecraft is more than there. We've seen that today out of Makoto Fujiwara. I predict we're going to see a few more P1 trophies in his hand. Certainly not a new experience for Fujiwara, who debuted in Ferrari Challenge back in 2016, 2-time Copa Shell champ, these days running in Trofeo Pirelli Am. And he's delighted with his win. I think Kanji Yagura was signaling there to say, do we get some champagne? And yes, we do. Good effort. Trofeo Pirelli Am podium is the new benchmark for the champagne spray. Oh, goodness. Akita, Yagura, and winner Fujiwara head off the podium then. Great effort from all parties in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Some great fighting in that class. A very interesting title battle to consider there as well. Yagura, Akita, Isosaki, Coldmax will all be up there, as now I'm sure will be Makoto Fujiwara in that championship in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Next up, of course, Copa Shell, where we saw some very exciting fighting. It'll be the first time we've seen Yasutaka Shirasaki not on the top step, but he'll still be on the podium. Third step of the podium for the Rosso Scuderia driver, Shirasaki. Good effort from Shirasaki. Had a little bit of moment during that race, but made up positions again after the spin. Had a very good race, as did this man, Phil Kim, the South Korean racer. Welcomed and encouraged into Ferrari Challenge by former Ferrari Challenge racer Jay Park. But Tsutomu Shimoyama, the driver of the Cornez Shiba Silver Bullet, stands on the top step. And your winner there in the gentleman drivers subclass as well, taking to the podium. That's M-Auto Italia's Ryuichi Kunihiro joining them on the podium as well. Kunihiro, who finished 5th overall within Copa Shell, joining them on the podium too. The trophies being presented to our leading drivers in the Copa Shell category. Tsutomu Shimoyama stands on the top step. There are your Copa Shell front runners then, celebrating. Shimoyama, of course, with his first win of the season in Copa Shell. I believe second in the championship now to Shirasaki as well. We'll close in a little bit on Shirasaki with this result, and Shirasaki only finishing 3rd in the class. Right, Trofeo Pirelli Am was a very spirited champagne spray. Let's see if Copa Shell can compare. Oh, goodness me. Well, that was a targeted effort there from Shimoyama to Shirasaki, but great celebrations. We've seen Shimoyama and Phil Kim go wheel to wheel this weekend and at Suzuka, and I suspect that before the end of the season we're going to see a good few battles in the Copa Shell lead between these 3 drivers, all of them very fast, all of them pretty daring as well when it comes to the wheel-to-wheel action and the dives to the positions. I think we're going to get some grandstand viewing in Copa Shell as the season goes on. Those 3 on the podium certainly among the favourites to fight for the championship. Of course, Shirasaki will leave Fuji still Copa Shell Championship leader. Next up, though, is the Copa Shell Am podium. Ryutaro Saito will be the first one up onto the podium. He is, of course, a representative of the Mid Sapporo dealership in Copa Dealer. Masafumi Hiwatashi will be on there, and I'm sure there'll be another big cheer, this time to the top step. It'll be for Yusaku Maezawa.
続きましてコッパシェルアマクラスの表彰です。選手をお呼びしましょう。第3位はカーナンバー 127MID 札幌斉藤龍太郎選手です。どうぞお越しください。
They're welcomed onto the podium is Ryotaro Saito.
第2位はカーナンバー129ヨーロピアンバージョン日渡正文選手です。どうぞお越しください。
European versions Masafumi Hiwatashi takes the second step, but here comes Yusaku Maezawa.
前澤友作選手です。
You can see how much it means to him. He loves his cars, he loves his racing. Not too long ago, launched a racing team here in Japanese GT competition and is now launching his own racing career in Ferrari Challenge Japan.
斉藤選手おめでとうございます。日渡選手おめでとうございます。そして前澤友作選手にトロフィーが贈られます。
Trophies being delivered then. Again, very excited to see how all of these drivers in Copa Shellam develop. Great celebrations from everybody. Yusaku Maezawa,
フォトセッションです。どうぞ。
as they posed the pictures, you saw the celebrations between Maezawa and Hiwatashi. All three of these drivers, I think, have a lot of potential to get quicker and quicker as the year goes on. That's always the interesting thing. Everyone's level improves as the year goes on in Copa Shellam, which is often the domain of the newcomers. They all get faster and faster, and the hierarchy at the start of the season can look quite different from how it is at the end of the year.
続きましてシャンパンファイトです。
One last champagne spray then. This is going to be the sweetest drink that Yusaku Maezawa has ever had. His first time on the top step of the podium.
斉藤選手よろしいですか。参りましょう。シャンパンファイト。
And of course, the newest Copa Shellam winner has to get the brunt of the champagne spray. Our top three celebrate in Copa Shellam. What a way to finish. All of our drivers always so excited and so happy to make these accomplishments happen. Everyone just vacating the podium then for the final time. That is all 4 podium ceremonies in the books. And with that, we conclude our weekend of action at Fuji Speedway. Next up, of course, on the program, it is Sportsland Sugo. The drivers were ready and raring to go racing here today at Fuji, and they provided us with fabulous racing action. Congratulations to all of our winners. A perfect weekend for defending champion Yudai Uchida, and a perfect weekend of excitement for all of our fans and all of our competitors in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Make sure you join us next time on the 8th and 9th of June. Sportland Sugo is our next destination.